Bills Mafia, what's going on? It is Friday, 11/21. I can't believe it's almost December. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys if I don't get to talk to you guys next week, but I'm trying to stay positive. Obviously, we know what happened last night with the Bills losing to the Texans in the way that they did. A lot of stuff looked ugly. So I got my guy Papa Ron, which we're going to get back on these Friday shows. I brought him in. So let me ask you first, Ron. You've had a little bit of time to sleep on it. Woke up this morning. How you feeling? How you feeling this lovely Friday afternoon?
It's funny you put it that way. Last night, if I could have fired Joe Brady on my own, I would have. I slept on it. I still would have fired him this morning. Yeah, we'll get into more of it, I'm sure, but to me, that's the biggest issue right now. Well, that and obviously injuries, but we can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I feel like beating a dead horse when we talk about the Bills hitting like the midway point of the season and we're bringing guys off the practice squad and using depth players. But that I don't feel like was the reason for last night's game. I don't feel like that's the reason for being 7-4 on the season. There may be a small fraction of responsibility blamed on the injuries with like Ed Oliver, Michael Hoyt, and things like that. Dalton Kincaid's been in and out of the lineup. Joshua Palmer's missed time. So I feel like I labeled this show, and I think I might have shocked Ron when I sent him the thumbnail. I labeled the show as this Bills roster is just not talented enough for Josh Allen. Like, he just doesn't have enough help. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat any of the stuff that Josh has done this season. He's had his own flaws. Last night, there was a couple plays that I'm sure he will tell you he would have liked to have had back. But if you look at the Texans' offensive line last night, and I'll start here. If you look at the Texans' offensive line last night, which is not good. Statistically, they're not good. If you look at any of the next-gen stats as far as allowing pressure rate, sacks allowed, things like that, they're not that good. And the pressure rate that was allowed was, I believe it was around 13%, which is the Bills' lowest pressure rate since 2023. And this is why I'm talking about the roster, and I want to talk about the roster because you spent all offseason putting money, investing money and draft capital into the defensive side of the football. I'm not saying that's why they lost the game last night. So I want to preface it with that's not why they lost this particular game. This is more of an 11-game outlook on what this team has done defensively. And I understand, again, there's injuries and stuff like that, but you have a defensive-minded head coach, which is the reason why he got this job. You have a guy in Bobby Babich who's been on this team for 9 years under Sean McDermott, who I believe it's the whole, he's going to eventually become a head coach somewhere. I'm sure that's the plan. And he's been mentored by Sean McDermott, right? So, Ron, let's talk a little bit about the defense, and not just last night, but it's glared its ugly head for most of the season where the Bills can't stop the run. They can't get to the quarterback. Coverage is getting better, I feel like, with Maxwell Hairston. Yes, he's dinged up, and Cole Bishop's coming along, and the reemergence of Jordan Poyer. But what's your thoughts on this defensive, unit as a whole? Not just the line, not just the backers, not just the defensive backs, where Brandon Beane went all in this offseason and said we were fine offensively, so we needed to improve on the defense. What's your thoughts on the defense overall? What's going on so far this season? You go as long as you want. Take it in any direction you want.
I think long term, if we project into the future, I like this defense. I do. I think they got a lot of really nice young pieces. I think I know a lot of people are not big fans of Brandon Beane's draft classes, but I feel like he has done a good job in a lot of ways, and I think this past draft could potentially be one of his best because they've got some talent on that defensive side. The problem is, and I know like you kind of let in with this as far as the injuries and being a small fraction of it, this defense would be vastly different in my mind with Hoyt and Oliver healthy. We saw what this defense looked like with Hoyt for 2 games. Well, a game and 3 quarters. Different. completely different. They can't get any pressure now. Um, I think the back end has definitely improved since week one as far as the play of Cole Bishop. Jordan Poyer, obviously a big factor in that, I think. Hairston coming back. Benford seems like he's starting to play a little bit better. I like the back end of this defense, but I really do think the injuries have played a significant role on the defensive side of this. As far as Bobby Babich goes, I'm willing to hold judgment on him because it's his first year as a DC. He's still, I feel like, kind of learning some things. And I do think they do a really good job of halftime adjustments. Last night's game, they looked awful in the first half. And it looked like Woody Marks, the rookie, was going to go for a career day for another 200. And then he just didn't. Like they did a really good job, I think, of adjustments. What I want to see from him now is better in-game adjustments, like on the fly. It's like, okay, this isn't working. It's time to shift gears. My concern with McDermott at this point, I've been a McDermott fan, apologist, supporter, or whatever you want to call it, since he came on board and all the way through up to this point. My worry with him is I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's very good at finding the right guys to surround himself with. He has not done a good job of finding good coordinators, game difference coordinators since Leslie Frazier and Dayball. He just hasn't. And even Dayball, yeah, he went on and got a head coaching job, but he got fired. So I don't know that McDermott is very good at mentoring and bringing guys along in that way. So that's my concern there. And if getting good quality coordinators in this house in the building, that to me is more important than the roster right now. And if that means getting rid of McDermott to make that happen, I think I'm okay with that now.
You say that, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Oh, I agree.
Just because of who the owner of this team is and the other franchise that he owns that we will not talk about on this podcast.
Let's not go there.
and again, I'm seeing a lot of comments people talking about the defense isn't the reason why they lost last night. And I agree. It's not. And I prefaced the whole conversation by saying the defense is not the reason why they lost last night. But there's a couple things you could pick apart from last night. You can't let Davis Mills go down in a less than 2-minute drill before the half, and that was ultimately the deciding factor of the game. If you want to think the Bills are going to score more than 3 points in the second half or not, that touchdown at the end of the half decided this game. The Bills did not get above 19 points, and that gave the Texans 20 points at halftime. So I don't want to spend too much time on the defensive side because I feel like that's been beat to death online. I feel like everybody's been very critical of Brandon Beane's drafting or free agent signing or how this roster is constructed for the future. I do agree with you when you say that there are some bright spots. Like I really think Cole Bishop's going to be something very special on the back end. I feel like Maxwell Hairston, I feel like he's going to be something special. I feel like Deion Walker's going to be something special. We don't know about Landon Jackson because he hasn't played and then he got injured. We don't really know much about TJ Sanders because I feel like they're forcing him to play out of position because of all the injuries. So I feel like the future is okay there. But, again, we're relying on these guys right now down the stretch in games that they just can't lose. So we'll have to see what happens after, this 10-day layoff that they have. Excuse me. And you mentioned the halftime adjustments. And that's kind of been a McDermott thing, right? Like, since he's been here, the team seemingly – in the second half plays with a lot more intensity. Now, I don't know if that's just looking at stuff at halftime and then making the adjustments. But my issue with McDermott and the defense is that why can't we start games that way? Why can't we start games? Now, I understand first drives are scripted, things happen. But once the game progresses through the first and second quarter, why aren't we playing with that level of intensity in that scheme that the second half they come out with? And they, like you said, they only allowed 3 points. Excuse me. They only allowed 3 points in the second half. And if you told me that the Bills would have had to score more than 3 points to win this game in the second half, or that the Bills only scored 3 points in the second half, I would have laughed you out of wherever we were talking because that's ridiculous. Yeah. And they couldn't. So I know that you're very passionate about the offensive side and Joe Brady, and that's where I want to spend a good bit of time talking about Joe Brady, and then that can kind of bleed into the whole roster construction too, because I think it ties together. I feel like Joe Brady basically has the same working parts that he had last year. You take out Mac Hollins and you add in Joshua Palmer, and then you add in Elijah Moore. You've benched Keon Coleman, so he's not there. He wasn't a huge factor down the stretch last year. So essentially, you still have James Cook. You have the same 5 guys blocking for Josh Allen. You still have Ty Johnson, Ray Davis. Kincaid's out, sure, but you still have Knox, things like that. So I know that I think I know where you're going to go with this, but I want you to kind of talk to me about Joe Brady. Talk to me about how you feel this offense, not just last night performed, but how you feel like this offense has performed, overall, where we're at after 11 games, things like that. Just give me your thoughts on Joe Brady.
I think what I'm seeing a lot of, I've really been trying to look at last season compared to this year because you're right, it is largely the same team, minus a couple of receivers that were changed, which on paper should have been improvements from last year. Number one, obviously the turnover ratio is significantly different this year versus last year. But why is that? Why is it this year Josh Allen seems to be making poor decisions more often than he did last year? Like we're seeing that Josh Allen from 2019, like running around way too much, trying to do everything. Sometimes, man, just get out of the pocket and let the ball go. Get rid of it, move on. He's just not doing that. But why is that? What, again, has changed from last year to this year? And it sounds crazy to me to say this. The offensive line, they have regressed massively since last year. They have been largely considered a top 5, top 10 offensive line for the last, 3 years now. It's the same 5 guys for 3 years in a row. They should be getting better, not worse. But now defenses are getting to Josh Allen. They're forcing him to make decisions a little faster than obviously he wants to. And I think that's a big part of it. He's not making the right decisions because he's like, okay, our defense can't stop the run, so we've got to score on this drive to keep up and put some pressure on the opposing offenses, and that's just not happening. Watching Spencer Brown just getting completely obliterated last night, down after down after down. I know he was playing with one arm, essentially, but Joe Brady needs to be able to take a step back and say, this is not working. 5-man protection is not going to cut it. I listened to a little bit of John Fina, and for the older crowd, he's a former Bills offensive lineman. Jerry Ostrowski, same thing. Both of these guys talk about 5-man protection, and Joe Brady will not get out of that. He insists on 5-man protection. I know maybe in the past that worked, but it's not now. So he has to adjust. He has to be willing to say, you know what, this isn't working. Let's try something else. All game long, from start to finish, he changed nothing. Though they needed help. They needed to go into max protect, run some QB draws. Like when a defensive line is destroying your offensive line, there are ways to help negate that. More screens, which I know we all keep screaming about, stop with the screen plays, but this is when you need them.
Right.
Let's see some draw plays. There's so... I'm not an offensive coordinator, but I can see it and say, there's other ways to do this, Joe. What are you doing? Josh even said on the sidelines, what are we doing?
Why, to me, it's more of why are you not using more protection up front? But all of last year, you were cool with having a 6th offensive lineman when you wanted to run the ball. So you knew you needed that. Mm-hmm. And I understand a run play is different than a pass play, and protections are different. I get that. But why is there no idea of what is happening in front of you where you watch Josh Allen get sacked on every single drive, sometimes on drives, multiple times on a drive, and he still overcomes that? Why are you not doing some sort of play action or let Josh roll out or screen passes or, I don't know, put trips on the side and then have these guys bump or something? Put Ty Johnson in the game. He's your best
something.
He's your best pass blocking running back, and I understand you want James Cook on the field And we've all been clamoring to get James Cook more involved in the pass game. And if he's not on the field, you can't use him in the pass game. But you can use Ty Johnson in the pass game. And if you put him out there, he's your best pass blocking running back. Use him if you have to. Use Jackson Hawes. Have 2 tight end sets. Whatever you have to do, it doesn't matter if it's pretty. And that's what I think the problem is with Joe Brady. He doesn't like to do the ugly stuff on offense. He tries to get cute. He gets complacent. And then he just does things that he it's like forcing the issue. Like he thinks it's going to work and he's just going to keep doing it because he has Josh Allen and because it worked last year. Well, you know what? When you're playing the number 1 pass defense in the NFL and the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, and by the way, they're approaching the number 1 sacking the opposing quarterback team in the NFL, especially after 8 last night.
Yeah.
You need to adjust. And it was apparent from the beginning of the game that the Bills' offensive line was overmatched. Now, that James Cook touchdown was an outlier. I'm going to tell you right now it was an outlier. I think kudos to the Texans for making adjustments against the run because Cook, he did some things a little bit more in the first half, but they made adjustments. And I don't understand why if Brandon Beane paid Ty Johnson to be here for 2 years, and he was highly effective last year when the Bills wanted to make him somewhat part of the offense. Why are you not using him more? We saw it last week with the screen pass touchdown. That's fine. That's not going to happen all the time. I get that. But Brady just seems like he doesn't want to be uncomfortable. Like he doesn't want to try to it's like a boxer when you're just constantly getting just punched and you have no counter punch. Like you have no, you're just getting jabbed in the face and you just have nothing to come back with. And was some of the blame on Josh Allen last night? Absolutely. There was some plays that it was on that long scramble. It's like, dude, you're going to punt anyways. No one's going to get open. You don't have the receivers that are going to play scramble drill. Just throw the ball out of bounds. It doesn't matter even if it's an intentional grounding or you lose the down, you're punting anyways. Don't cost your team 18 negative yards.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I talked about this last night on the post-game show, I feel like Josh Allen has this internal thought process of, I need to go do something. If that's right or wrong or indifferent, I don't care. I feel like with his surrounding cast and how that offensive line played last night, I feel like he forced things. His thought process wasn't clear at all. I mean, like you said, he was on the bench. I've never seen Josh Allen on the bench verbally frustrated saying, what are we doing? And I'm not sure what play that was after, if it was after the 4th and 1 handoff to Cook or if that was later in the game.
Yeah,
but
it was that 4th and 1 where they faked to the fullback and then he gave it. That's another problem.
And my thing, too, is on that play, okay, we bitch about the tush push. We think it's ugly as an NFL fan base, not just the Bills. It's an ugly play. It's gross, but it basically works a lot more than it doesn't, right? So why are you turning around, having your quarterback walk 5 yards backwards to hand the ball to the running back who was immediately hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage? That doesn't make any sense to me. And it's either that stuff or it's he tries to get cute on 4th and short with a lateral or a flea flicker or an end around or just something that doesn't make sense. Do what works. And that's why I don't understand why Joe Brady just doesn't get out of his own way. Josh Allen is going to get that first down. And if he doesn't, okay, they were better than the Bills on that play. But to me, I think there's a bigger issue here. Why is Josh Allen getting that call on his headset? It's 4th and 1. You want me to hand the ball off to James Cook? Where's the pushback from Josh on that? You know what I'm saying? Why isn't he checking out of that play? Josh Allen in year 8 should do that, right? Now, I understand you want to call the plays that your offensive coordinator is telling you to call, or you want to run the plays he's telling you to run, but why is Josh not at the line and it's no, we're not doing this, and then just do a tush push? And I understand he's the quarterback and this is the offensive coordinator, and there's that whole thing, but Is he not to a point where he can't audible out of something? I mean, it's Josh Allen. It's year 8. He was the MVP last year. Like, what are we
Yeah,
doing?
I think that's difficult to address or even discuss because we don't know really what's taking place over those microphones. What's
Right.
the conversations are being taken place. I don't think you want your quarterback every single time he's not happy with the play call to change it. I think that could create
Sure.
some dissension between the players and the coaches. And then once the coaches lose the locker room,
Sure.
then you're definitely in trouble. And honestly, I kind of starting to wonder if maybe McDermott is already losing this locker room because the players just don't seem to have that fire right now. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like against the Chiefs, they were ready to rock, and they
Yeah.
did. Against the Dolphins, the Falcons, now the Texans. Now, granted, I think the Texans are a better team than what their record would indicate. I do, but especially at defense. But the 4th and 1, to me, just again as a fan who's been watching football for almost 40 years now, on a 4th and 1, gotta have it. You need to run a play that gives you options, not a play that's going to take 2 seconds to develop in the backfield, especially against a defensive line that's kicking your ass. I like a play action rollout would have been perfect then. Give Allen the option to either go for him with his feet or dump it short to somebody in the flats, whether it's Kincaid or not Kincaid, but maybe Knox in this situation or whoever out there for a first down. You got to give these guys options. I saw somebody on Twitter commented, "It's 4th and 1. You got to have it, and you're taking the ball out of Allen's hands." I don't have a problem with that necessarily if your offensive line is dominating. I have no
Right.
problem handing the ball off up the middle to James Cook in that situation, but they weren't. In that particular instance, you got to get creative, but not cute.
Yeah, and I feel like that's been kind of the theme of the season for the offense is let's get cute here. Like I said something a couple weeks ago. It's like on the critical downs is when I do not trust Joe Brady.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about 3rd and 7. I'm talking about 4th and 2, 4th and 1. Gotta have it. Like last year, it was just let Josh go get it. Just let Josh go get it. It's 4th and 1. Let Josh go get it. And now it's like, where did that go? And that's why I'm concerned about Joe Brady because what the Bills did last year, and I said this last night, what the Bills did last year offensively was going to be extremely, extremely difficult. I think even you and me talked about it, Ron, earlier in the offseason. Like what the Bills did as far as giving up only 14 sacks, only having 8 turnovers the whole season, nobody fumbling except for Josh Allen twice. Like nobody fumbled. Like the offensive line played really well. The run game was great. The pass game was good when it needed to be. And the Bills controlled clock and they scored a ton of points, most in franchise history. That was going to be really hard to just come close to accomplishing this year.
yeah,
So now what happens is the Bills have to play off script a lot because the offensive line isn't holding up their end of the deal, right? They're having turnovers, so they're having to play from behind. And I feel like this team is not built to play from behind. I just don't. I don't feel like they're built to chase after teams. This team is built for teams to chase them. And when you're turning the ball over 2 and 3 times a game, you're not going to win. And that's what the Bills did not do last year. They won the turnover battle every game last year that there was a turnover. So it's just it's Joe Brady should have adapted early on in the season after that 4-2 start to the bye week. When they lost those 2 games, there should have been a huge, self-reflection being done. And then they came out and they did play well against the Panthers, right? That game was good. Then they beat the Chiefs, but it's like there's no consistency. And I don't know if that's with the players. I don't know if that's the scheme. It's very confusing. And that's why I wanted to talk about the players because we talked heavily about Joe Brady, but let's talk about the offensive players that are not named James Cook and Josh Allen.
okay.
And these are the guys that are going to be on this roster. Deion got paid. Spencer Brown got paid. O'Cyrus Torrence is probably going to get an extension. And Joshua Palmer is going to be here for 3 more years. So what's your thoughts on the offensive personnel? Is it enough for Josh Allen? Is it scheme that's the issue? Or is Brady not using these guys correctly? Like, what's your overall thoughts on the offense? And then we'll kind of, we can kind of lean into that kind of heavy on personnel.
I think I've made it clear my opinion and thoughts on Joe Brady. There are things he can do to help the offense as far as scheming guys open. Andy Reid is one of the best we've ever seen at doing that. Watch his film, take some points from him. But as far as the personnel goes, I think with the right scheme, this team would be fine. I really do. Would the team be better off with an alpha number one receiver? Of course, all 32 teams in the league would be. So to say they wouldn't be is stupid. But we just don't have that. That's not how they wanted to build this. The problem I feel like with the roster is we have a lot of people that are underperforming right now that in the past have played very, very well. Across the board, the offensive line. Maybe David Edwards hasn't really been an issue. I'm not an all-22 guy. I don't watch film that closely to know if he's a problem or not. But I just haven't really heard his name, which generally when it comes to offensive line, that's a good thing, right? I feel like the tackles have been struggling this year for whatever reason. They're not the same. Terrell Bernard, same thing. Taron Johnson. These guys are not performing. We can even go back to Taylor Rapp. He was fine last year. He was not a bad starting safety. This year, he was garbage. We had to ask a 60-year-old Jordan Poyer to come in and, hey, can you help us out? And to me, that's the bigger issue is guys that you were counting on to be core players of this team, on both sides of the ball, are not getting it done. For whatever reason, they have regressed. And that's why I'm starting to question if maybe this is a McDermott issue. Has his welcome there worn out? Are the players like, yeah, we've heard the same message every single year now for almost a decade? It can get old. It really can. So maybe, oh man, I hate that I'm even thinking like this because I've always been a McDermott supporter for a long, long time.
Yeah, but you know what, Ron? It's year 9.
I know.
Like
I know.
The sitting in the press conferences is not giving the media guys anything ever. Is okay. That's your message, fine. But how many times are we going to have to sit and listen to? We're going to have to learn from it. It's year 9. Like, this is the same message that you're giving to your locker room guys, like your players. And for like Josh Allen, who's been here for 8 of those 9 years, Deion Dawkins, who's been here for 9 of those years, every game that McDermott's coached, Deion's played in. And it's like, what's the message? Like, what's changing that, okay, tomorrow's going to be different. We're going to finally, this message is going to finally resonate and it's going to hit home with these guys. And then you bring the new guys in and then you give them the message. And then in the locker room, like you said, they're probably talking about, oh, this locker room's cool. Like, everybody loves each other. We play for each other. What's the message? Oh, the message has been the same every single year. And that's not a knock on McDermott. Maybe he's peaked. Maybe that's his ceiling, is getting a team to win their division. Maybe that's his ceiling. And I'm not a fire McDermott guy, and I'm not a fire Bean guy, but I will open the conversations about, are they the right guys to do this? Because Josh Allen's going to be 30 years old next season, like 30. And I'm not saying he's going to slow down or not be Josh Allen, but for 8 years, you've had this unicorn, right? Take away the first 2, fine, for growing pains. But since 2020, the last 5 years, 6 years, you've had Josh Allen. And it's not getting better. We keep having these mid-season, like, what are we doing? We keep having these oh shit moments where we play down to the opponent. We have these moments of, yay, we beat the Chiefs. And then a couple weeks later, we lose a game we have no business losing. It's just, I'm tired of defending McDermott. I'm tired of defending Bean and this roster construction. And that's what I really want to hit home about this roster is we are tied to Greg Rousseau for a number of years. We are tied to an undersized Terrell Bernard for a number of years. We are tied to Christian Benford for a number of years. It's like, I don't know, man. And Bean came out here and was pounding his chest about all these extensions getting done, and we don't have to worry about signing, a CB1 next year or a starting linebacker or a defensive end because I got him locked up for 4 more years. I haven't seen anything from Greg Rousseau this year that makes me think that he was worth a 4-year contract. I'll be brutally honest. I haven't seen anything from Terrell Bernard. Now, people are saying he's been playing injured most of the season. So, okay, I guess he gets somewhat of a pass. But all of our linebackers are undersized. All of our defensive linemen are undersized, except for Greg Rousseau. Like, what's with this whole defensive, construction of just getting undersized guys? I don't understand, except Deion Walker, right? Maybe he's one of the big guys, but I don't know.
I mean, you got Daquan Jones in there's pretty good. Even Joey Bosa. I don't know that they're necessarily undersized. Ed Oliver, definitely. T.J. Sanders, yes. Which that's the middle of your defense.
That's what I'm saying. We
I'm
can't
gonna
stop
go back
the run, but let's go draft undersized guys to stop the run.
And I'm going to go back 20 years. God, I miss Ted Washington, Sam Adams. Those guys
right.
Were,
just big.
That's
just
what
big
I want.
Refrigerators in there, just eating up blocks.
That's what I want on middle of my defensive line. I go back to I didn't have a problem with those extensions. I really didn't. I kind of agree a little bit with the Rousseau thing. I think he's a good player. Getting him an extension was fine. I just didn't necessarily like the money for the production, like you were saying. But these are guys that are supposed to be better than what we're seeing right now. That is Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson, Gregory Rousseau. Really thought he would kind of take a step up this year, especially with Bosa on the other side. I do wonder, had they not lost Michael Hoyt, what that might have done, because everybody looked significantly different when Hoyt was on the field. I don't know if it's the energy he brings. I don't know if it's the attention that he brings, maybe a combination of it or whatever. But this team on both sides of the ball, they need an energy like Hoyt. Not even necessarily the talent, but it's just like they come out and they're just dead right off the bat. There's nobody out there barking in their faces. And how many times have we seen Tom Brady in his team's faces on the sidelines, and his fans are like, oh, this guy's a douchebag. Well, maybe we need that guy right now.
Peyton Manning used to do it too. He used to bitch out his offensive line when they had the wrong protection.
I want to see some of that. I did kind of appreciate a little bit more of seeing Allen a little bit more animated on the sidelines, but I want to see that towards the players, not just smashing your helmet on the ground or throwing the iPad down at the end of the game, or throwing yourself down on the bench and asking, what are we doing? Which I wanted to ask you, what do you think he meant by that? I found that to be really interesting. Was that a comment? We'll never know this, but was that geared towards the players? Was that geared towards the play call?
Put my tinfoil hat on, conspiracy theorist. I feel like that was aimed at Joe Brady.
I do too.
Why are we calling this play on 4th and 1 when we haven't been able to do anything offensively? We've been fighting for first downs and any kind of to me, they struggled just to get 5-yard gains on plays. Even in the passing, everything was like a slugfest just to get anything going on offense.
Which, honestly, against a team like the Texans, you would expect that, right?
I get that, but I also expect to see a guy who was considered for head coaching jobs last year or last offseason because of his offensive prowess and how smart he is in scheming up his offenses to beat good defenses. And we saw last year, they were able to go up against top defenses last year and beat them because of his play calling and his adaptability and scheming guys into right positions and things like that. But you got to think that Josh Allen's upset at, I've been getting beat up all game. The running game they have completely shut down now. Why are we going to have me turn around 5 yards into the backfield and hand the ball off when we need one yard? And that, to me, I don't think that Josh Allen is ever going to be that guy where he's going to publicly call out anybody or any kind of bad intentions of having anything said in a press conference, or he's going to say our play calling stinks, I think we should have went for it this way, or we should have done that. But in the moment, right there on the sideline, I think the emotions got the better of him, and I don't mind Josh Allen being like you can see him physically upset.
Yeah.
I don't mind that because
either.
to me that's what I want from Josh Allen. I don't want the after the game's over, sitting there looking like you're about to cry, your face is all red and you just look disheveled, and I don't want that, Josh Allen. I want pissed off. It's not good enough. We need to fix something, because then maybe if your franchise $300 million quarterback is telling you that what we're doing is not good enough, maybe someone around in that building will hear that, and maybe something will change. Because if it takes Josh Allen, who's the reigning MVP, to get sacked 8 times and to look pissed off on the sideline and slamming his tablet or his helmet down and saying, what are we doing? Maybe somebody needs to have a meeting. Maybe they need to have a players-only meeting. I hate those, but maybe it's time. You talked about maybe McDermott has lost the locker room. Maybe it's time for everybody show up at One Bills Drive. Nobody's coming in but players. We need to talk about how we want to fix this season. We need to talk about how we're going to step up. We need to talk about who's going to help win games. Who's going to make plays on offense, defense, and special teams to help us win games, and not just pout and not just get your ass beat and just go about it like it's no big deal because you're collecting checks. Like, that's what needs to happen. And I've said for a long time, this team doesn't have any assholes on their team. And people get mad at me because that's not a culture fit. And why would we want divas? We want people that are going to get in your face and say, you screwed up. I need you to be better. Or to fire the team up when they're not playing good. And they just don't have that. And it's tough to watch. It really is. So
I do think there's a way to do that. I'm not necessarily a big proponent or advocate for pointing fingers or blame necessarily.
Right.
I go back to the Stephon Diggs situation, and I think, honestly, and I'll admit this, I think I was wrong. I do.
100%.
I think Diggs
I've
saw what
admitted
was coming.
publicly that I was wrong about that whole situation.
I think he saw what was coming with Brady, because you look at that season. The first half of the season, Diggs was Diggs. Like, he was getting open, he was getting targeted. The targets dropped a little bit once Brady took over, but the one thing that I noticed, and I remember thinking back to this, is, man, Diggs isn't open. Yeah, he's getting the targets, but there's no separation. It's Stephon Diggs we're talking about, one of the best receivers in football when it came to separation. Now, I know he's not the same guy today that he was 3-4 years ago, but under Brady, I don't know if it's got to be something with the scheme, because even Stephon Diggs could not get open, and Diggs saw the problems. And remember, what was it, June, July? He went during minicamp, went to the office. They sent him home afterwards, and he had that sit down with McDermott.
Yeah.
I would really love to hear that conversation, because I do feel like Diggs went in there and said, hey, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with this. So to your point about somebody like Josh Allen needing to go in and do that, maybe it wouldn't even help. Maybe it doesn't matter, because somebody already tried to do that and they blew him off. And they took $31 million in dead cap to get rid of him.
Yeah, and I again, the Diggs topic is tough, because I don't think we fully have gotten the information as to what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We just saw Diggs being upset at times, right? We heard that he was causing issues, or we saw all the cryptic tweets that he would put out, things like that. But seeing his production in 23 just drop off a cliff in the back end of that, and nobody was saying anything, because in the back end of 23, the Bills went on that run after Joe Brady, he's the answer. Like,
Yeah.
We fired Ken Dorsey. This offense is great. Like, well, the Bills are running the ball. We've all been saying for years we need to run the ball more, and McDermott must be loving this because Joe Brady loves to run the ball. But then, like you said, everything seemed forced to Diggs. And at the end, like you said, at the end of that season, everything seemed forced, and it didn't seem like it was as easy for Josh to get to him like it was in the previous 3.5 years. And say what you want about Stephon Diggs, like him, hate him, whatever. He's having a really good season in New England, and maybe the scheme is perfect for him over there. But to me, you bring in guys like Joshua Palmer, who we've been sold on by the analytics nerds that he is a separation guru. Like, he's a guy that's going to get open, right? By all the metrics you look at, he's a guy that's going to get open. And yes, I know he was injured and he missed a few games, but I don't feel like being utilized correctly. Then you look at Keon Coleman's situation, where now we have to deal with the Keon Coleman situation after just losing the way that they did, where the offense looked putrid. A week after, or 4 days after, the offense looked really good without Keon Coleman. So now McDermott has to deal with that whole situation. And then, they need to figure out how to use Khalil Shakir more. I'm sorry. If you go back and you watch any games from last year, he was used vertically. It wasn't just screens. Was that his bread and butter? Yes. He's a slot receiver. That was his bread and butter, was screens and short intermediate stuff. But they used him vertically last year. And that's Joe Brady, the same guy calling plays. So I don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like. I don't think that McDermott makes a move here. I feel like there's nobody in that building that can call plays offensively, and I feel like this is what we're going to get the next 6 games. And we have to hope and pray that somebody does something that sparks a fire under these players' asses, and they look a lot more hungry when they play the Steelers in 10 days. They got 10 days to lick their chops, get healthy the best you can, and go out there and beat the Steelers on the road. It's a tough ask, but it is what it is. And these conference losses can't keep happening. They can't keep losing games in the conference, because when it comes to playoff seeding, it's going to be an issue. So any more thoughts before we get out of here? Thank you, everybody, for watching First and 5 on Friday. I know it's a tough time right now to try to find positive things and talk about the Bills. Stay off of social media, because they're just being they're being dogged everywhere, and rightfully so after last night's performance. Josh Allen, I feel like he's getting unwarranted hate by the national media, but there is some folks that are standing up for him. The ones that really know the game of football know that this is not a Josh Allen problem. This is we don't have enough guys making plays. We don't have enough guys supporting Josh, whether that's offensive or defensively. Somebody just make a play. And yes, last night, James Cook had a nice long run. And yes, Ray Davis had a kickoff return for a touchdown. But other than that, offense was bad. Defense was better in the second half. But it's not consistent to where every week I feel like they don't have offense, defense playing good. It's always one or the other. You know what I mean? And then after halftime, the defense plays good and the offense is still playing bad. The next week, the offense is good, but the defense can't stop a nosebleed. So it's crazy. We'll see how this season plays out. Anything else, Papa Ron, before we get out of here, man?
No, I think I'm good for now.
Ron's gonna go meditate.
We got 10 days to deal with this. 10 days, man.
Man, yeah. So me and Akeem will be back tomorrow night for Billsology. Then I'll be back Monday with Peter DiBiase for First and 5. You guys take a weekend. Maybe don't digest too much football. Spend some time with your family. Thanksgiving's coming up next week. So until then, for Papa Ron, I'm Dave Myers. Go Bills, and we'll see you next time.